to Gordon, almost stolen, but Gordon got it back and drops the hammer.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Your man Eric Wilson, Sports Arena here, live back here tonight. And just wanted to say welcome to everybody for tuning in. We got a great show for you this evening. This is actually a different kind of show, if you will. As you guys know, throughout the season, Alex, my brother, who I'm going to bring on here in a minute, is my co-host of the show, The Magic Perspective with Alex and Eric. And since the NBA is back, we figured, well, we might as well get back into the groove of things. So let me first go ahead and introduce my brother, Mr. Alex Fleming. Alex, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine. What's going on, brother?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I can.
You were breaking up in the beginning, but I'm glad that everything's working out all right.
Yes. So this is, as I said, the Magic
Yeah, you had
Perspective
that
with
whole
Alex
computer
and Eric.
love thing going on.
So let us welcome in our guest this evening, Mr. Well, actually, I should call him Coach Scott Fields. Coach, how are you this evening, man? Thank you for joining Alex and I here on the Magic Perspective. How are you?
Doing well, fellas. Appreciate you having me. I know you're down there in that heat and humidity, and I'm out here in the dry heat in Salt Lake City. So thrilled to be here with you guys.
Appreciate your time this evening here on the Magic Perspective. I definitely wanted to have the people kind of get to know you a little bit, kind of talk about your background and where you came from. Alex and I have got a lot of questions this evening that we got to ask you. So before we get to all that, I digress really quick. As I start my show here, whether it be the Magic Perspective or the Sports Arena, something that I always want to bring attention to. Ladies and gentlemen, as I say, and as I will continually say, we need justice for Breonna Taylor. We need justice for Elijah McClain. Had to get that out the way. So, Coach, please introduce yourself to the people. Talk to them about who you are, your background. Just who is Coach Scott Fields?
I'm just a skinny, bald man from Indiana who was a Hall of Famer in high school, but I have been blessed with a career that if you would have asked me in my teens, would I ever imagine that? I would have had to have said no. But growing up in the state of Indiana, where basketball is just kind of like a religion, it's in your DNA. Every barnyard, every light pole, every driveway, every garage door has a basket. And that's how I grew up, and was blessed to have been a Hall of Famer in high school, got right into college, and started my coaching career very early. So I coached 15 years at the college level with multiple teams that were nationally ranked. And then at the tender age of 26, actually took my very first head coaching job as a professional overseas in Europe. And then 15 years of coaching FIBA teams, winning multiple championships, working with a lot of current and former NBA players. Got to spend time in the NBA with the Utah Jazz and Hall of Fame coach Jerry Sloan, and then also the Golden State Warriors when Steph Curry was a rookie, and then also the Sacramento Kings. So for me to sit here in front of you today saying that I've been blessed and have a passport with more ink than Wiz Khalifa, I would be lying to you. But I've been blessed and have been humbled. And now I host my show, the Coach Scott Fields Show, and we've just had some phenomenal guests. So for me to sit here and get to answer questions instead of ask the questions, I'm pretty excited about this, fellas.
Awesome. So let me ask the first question really quick, and then I'll kick it over to my man Alex. You talked about your time and growing up, and just basically every neighborhood, every house you looked at, there was a basketball court. Was there a particular moment that you knew this was going to be what you were going to do with for the rest of your life?
I always saw the game very cerebral. And when I was very young, I can remember sitting at the coffee table and I would take coasters and I would sit there and kind of analyze what our high school coach was having us do, like against a 1-3-1 or a 2-3. And then it was always a game of chess to me. So for me, I always wanted to try to gain an advantage as a player and attack other teams' weaknesses. So I would sit there with coasters. And I think at the moment when I realized that I could teach the game of basketball to my mom, I feel like you know what, maybe I got a future in this.
Coach Fields,
Alex,
let me ask you, how long have you been coaching for, sir?
My entire adult life. I actually started coaching at the tender age of 19. I actually took an oral polio vaccine that caused my immune system to go awry. And so I went from being a Hall of Fame high school athlete to being bedridden for 9 months. And at the age of 19, the college coach that I played for knew of my aspirations of wanting to get into coaching. So at the tender age of 19, I got right into college coaching and was coaching guys my age and older than me. So I had to go on there and, be able to communicate and let them know that I was there to help them and empower them and teach them skills to make them better players so that maybe so that way they could pursue a career in athletics. So at a very young age, I knew that, this was something that I always wanted to give back to the game that had been so good to me at a young age.
So, Coach Scott Fields here on the Magic Perspective with Alex and Eric. You talked about Steph Curry in his rookie year, and I want to get to him in a moment. But who are some of the other players that you have worked with throughout your career?
It's interesting. When I started off coaching professionally overseas and in the FIBA ranks and internationally, I actually coached Carlos Arroyo. You're down there in Florida, so he was there. He was only 17 years old when I was with Fajardo. And then, of course, you saw the multiple NBA teams that he was able to play with. I can remember watching and working with Manu Ginobili before he ever came over to the NBA. And a name that a lot of NBA people did not get to know, but to me, arguably one of the best players in all of Asia. And here I say that with Yao Ming being the #1 draft pick with the Houston Rockets, there was a guy from Lebanon. I coached 3 years in Lebanon, and his name was Fadi Khatib. And to me, here's a 6'6" guy, who's led his national team for many years and got them into the top 16 in the World Championships. That to me was probably the best player that I coached that never got to get into the NBA. Actually had him working out with my friends with the LA Lakers and the LA Clippers. The Lakers wanted to actually invite him into camp, but the team that owned his contract over in Lebanon would not allow him out of his contract at that time. And it's too bad because what a talent he was.
Very cool. Alex?
Yeah, there's a long list of names. The agent that I actually worked with overseas is Luciano Capicchioni out of Italy, San Marino. And he was the agent who brought over Tony Kukoc, Avidas Sabonis, Pau Gasol, Peja Stojakovic. So a lot of the earlier European players that you saw that were infused into NBA teams, he was their agent. And he was actually my agent as I was coaching throughout Europe in my early years.
Very cool. Talking to Coach Scott Fields here on the Magic Perspective with Alex and Eric.
Your best landing spot, because you've been across the globe.
Best landing spot, Alex. Great question. As far as beauty and scenery, I really enjoyed coaching in the country of Sweden. I felt like I was living in a national park. It was pristine and beautiful, and people were very active. So for me, as far as beauty and aesthetics,
your best landing spot, because you've been across the globe. Where's the best place?
Coach, I think we're having a small bit of a technical issue here. So I'm just gonna Alex, I know you can hear us. I just want you to kind of back out and come back in. Maybe that might fix that. So
no, we'll be all right. But actually for basketball, to answer Alex's questions, Eric, Lebanon, and a lot of people would be very surprised by that. But the country of Lebanon, to me, even though I coached in China and I coached in Venezuela and I coached in Puerto Rico, I coached throughout the Middle East and Asia, Lebanon was outstanding. Again, they were in the top 16 in the world at the World Championships. To me, it was like the Paris of the Middle East. You're right there on the Mediterranean Sea, and you had the mountains, but they just loved their basketball. And the first team that I took over in Lebanon, it was interesting because in that country, let me kind of explain the dynamics there.
Please.
Basketball wise, it was a team that had won the championship 7 years in a row. And then my team came in. So the team that was in the finals was a Christian based team. My team was a Muslim based team. The president of the country backed the championship team. The prime minister of the country supported our team. So it was sports, politics, and religion all combined. And when you get that into just an enthusiastic atmosphere. I'd never been in a place where I was coaching where the Army surrounded the court with their Uzis and their berets to protect us. So that
Yeah, definitely. All right, let me bring my man Alex back in here right now. Alex, how we doing? We better now?
How do I sound?
You sound
there
wonderful.
you go. There you go.
Excellent. Okay. So I missed that story about the whole Army brigade surrounding the basketball court with Uzis. Where was that?
That was in Beirut, Lebanon. I was explaining to Eric that my team was backed by the prime minister and was Muslim based. The championship team was backed by the president of the country, which was Christian based. So sports, politics, and religion was all intertwined. And the facility that we played in would remind you of Cameron Indoor there at Duke, because it was first come, first serve. It was general seating. But when the Coliseum was completely packed with about 6,500 people, there would be 4,000 people sitting outside the arena with big screen TVs cheering and chanting, and just a wonderful atmosphere for a guy like me from Indiana who loves the game of basketball. To see them love and support the game of basketball back then when I was there, it was a beautiful thing. It was some great memories made.
You are from Indiana. I'm originally from Illinois. I was a little kid during the height of the Bobby Knight era. Could you feel the things?
I got a little bit of a glitch there with you, Alex. It
Bobby
sounds
Knight.
like you're trying to ask about Bobby Knight and what his impact was on Indiana basketball when you were growing up in Illinois. Is that what I heard?
Absolutely.
Yes, Bobby Knight could have been governor of Indiana, but he would have had to take a cut in pay. My dad idolized him every Saturday morning on TV4. We were watching the Bobby Knight show. I had a lot of friends, and a player who graduated from my high school, Ted Kitchell, actually went and played for Coach Bobby Knight. His cousin, John Kitchell, played for Purdue University. So, Bobby Knight was and is a legend. He's an icon. And when I got to coach against him at the Maui Invitational out at Chaminade University in Hawaii, where I actually coached, I think my dad actually rooted against me. So I had to accept it.
So, Coach, I got to ask you, because you brought him up, and this man is kind of rewriting NBA history with his shot from basically beyond 40. Can you talk to us about your time and what you experienced with Steph Curry, speaking to some of his intangibles, if you will, that just make him the athlete that he is?
I'll tell you what, he came in there his rookie year, and then talking about Indiana University, my close friend who invited me to come in and be a part of that Golden State Warriors team was Coach Keith Smart. Keith Smart is well known for hitting the national championship winning shot against Syracuse, and he's one of my best friends in the industry. So Coach Smart allowed me to come in. I thanked him for that opportunity. Steph Curry, wow. How do you put all the tangibles and adjectives that best describe him? But he was very, very humble. He was very, very coachable. He would look you right in your eyes. He would give you a good, firm handshake. And he was already a student of the game because he wanted to pick everybody's brain and learn and expedite that learning curve. And he was already starting to get into his routines because, as you know, he had a great support system as his dad, Dale Curry, playing in the NBA for many years. But you could see him already starting to work on that pregame ball handling routine that he had. And he also did that with me when we did an NBA charity event right here in Salt Lake City when I coached him the second time. But he's just so coachable. And the fact that, I think he had to block out a lot of the white noise and cynicism of NBA scouts saying he's not really a point guard. He's too small to be a two. He can't guard anybody. I think he blocked out all that white noise and he worked extremely hard. So his work ethic has to be commended. But if there's players out there listening to the show, make sure that you stay humble, that you stay coachable, make sure that you want to evolve and put tools in your tool bag that's going to help you be the best version of yourself. And like you see over my shoulder with that Mamba mentality, how to be the best version of yourself. Steph Curry had that because his work ethic and the amount of hours that he would put in to get that muscle memory, to get that technique, to get his conditioning down to where he'd have that quick release to get it off against bigger defenders. It was definitely evident. And so to sit back now from afar and see how he's transformed the game, and basically the NBA has changed and other teams have tried to change because of his skill set and strengths, it's something to truly admire.
Did you implement him moving his shot back 30, 35, 40 feet? Or
I can't take it
whenever you first met him?
No, I can't take credit for any of that. I was just lucky enough to be around him and observe his work ethic and see his skill set and to see his drive. Those early years for him, the franchise was in a lot of transition as far as, front office and then ownership and then also with coaches. So he went through multiple coaches in the first 5 or 6 years of his career. But just the fact that, he was able to take his strengths and make those assets to the franchise and allow the team to build around him was phenomenal, because many years he could have taken so much more money, but yet he was so humble and he knew he had to surround himself with the right pieces. And then you add Klay Thompson, and then, years later, you got Draymond Green, and then you saw KD, what they did when they all got together. And again, him setting back and not taking the high salaries so that they could afford other free agents to come in. To me, that selflessness is part of the reason why they were so dominant for so many years.
Yeah, and clearly that showed when they went on their run and, had multiple championships to their credit. So, all right. So you live in Salt Lake City. Now,
Yes.
Are you a Jazz fan because you live there, or is that your team? Like, how does this work right now with you being in Utah?
You know what? Utah is just my base. That's where I live. But when Jerry Sloan was so kind to me and allowed me to come in and observe and consult with he and his staff, of course, how could you not enjoy being around a Hall of Fame coach every day for 2 seasons? And, he didn't have to do that. I was coaching over in China when China's league runs. The NBA season still continues. And then I coached in the summer league over in China. And when I was home here in Salt Lake City, he opened his doors to me. So to see him and Phil Johnson, that 23-year relationship and loyalty that they had. Ty Corbin was the big man coach at the time. Scott Layden, a former GM of the New York Knicks, was the guards coach. And then at that time, Jeff Hornacek was just a part-time shooting coach who actually worked with Kyle Korver and Ronnie Brewer and those guys at that time. So for me to be around those guys and see that staff, see how they interacted, and to have my philosophies reiterated and reinforced from a Hall of Fame coach like Jerry Sloan. He was the original Bull. And Alex, I know you growing up in Illinois, he's a McLeansboro guy. So that toughness that he instilled in that team, he never allowed the tail to wag the dog. And it was refreshing to see a coach go in there and demand the best from you and your work ethic, whether you were number 1 on the roster or number 15 on the roster. He expected you to tuck your shirt in, pull your socks up, and put in a hard day's work. And it was fun to see.
People don't seem to understand that mentality. From Rantoul, Paxton, Buckley, Loaded, Decatur, Champaign, Urbana, Chicago, Fisher, Streeter. That was something that was taught in every Illinois kid. You fight. You don't stop fighting.
Yeah, he personified that toughness every day.
That's all right.
So let's talk about life in the bubble, if you will, because as we start to see this. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, little IT, little drag there. I can hear part of it's broke up.
We've been having a little bit of issues here, trying to get all the bugs worked out here on the Magic Perspective. Sorry, guys, about that. Let me just quick ask you a question, and we'll get him back in here. As like I said, life in the bubble as it starts to happen. We've seen, the fact that the Toronto Raptors driving up from Fort Myers, the Miami Heat driving up to Orlando, the Orlando Magic themselves basically taking a 20-minute cab ride to this bubble. What are your predictions for what you think life in the bubble is going to be like for these teams as we get set to resume play within the NBA?
I believe that we're very blessed and we're fortunate to have, to me, one of the best commissioners in all of major sports. Adam Silver has been on the forefront. I think he's progressive. I think he analyzes the data and he surrounds himself with the individuals to help him make the best educated decisions. So I believe that bubble is going to continue to be a work in progress. I have many friends on many NBA staffs who are actually, on their way down to Orlando to, start the testing process. There's been multiple practice facilities, closed down, the Denver Nuggets, the Clippers. And I know New Jersey, they were starting to close down their practice facilities because of positive COVID testing. I know that testing is going to be very stringent. There's going to be a lot of things really enforced in the very beginning. And, it truly is all about, the bottom line and the financial. There's $900 million at stake with TV contracts. So for Adam Silver to say, okay, how can we do this? And how can we lead? And how can we get players here and keep them safe and keep them healthy to put an entertaining product out on the court for the fans? I think we're going to continue to see a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation with the players representatives, Chris Paul being, the president of the Players Association. Those things are going to continue to be tweaked. And what we talk about and discuss right now, 10 hours, 12 hours from now will probably change, but they're going to change for the good and for the betterment and for the safety. But the players have to go in there with the right mindset to know that their health and best interest is also at hand. And also, let's applaud Adam Silver for allowing the players to use their platforms to talk about equality, social injustice, police brutality. Because to me, fellas, let's be real, those things are needed, and this movement is needed. So for allow them to, put names on jerseys, to have, BLM along the courts, outstanding, kudos, great job, Adam Silver. My son is African American, so I stand beside him side by side as we try to navigate these uncertain times that's going on in our society right now, fellas.
Yeah. And Coach, thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot, just coming from a Black man personally, to know that people who are in a powerful position like yourself are using your voice and your platform to help spread this message across and truly speak up for, what is going on in this country. That is huge. So from me, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Eric, let's be honest. I want to challenge my Caucasian friends, because let's be honest, we as the majority, we are the ones that need to listen. We are the ones that need to learn. We are the ones that can no longer turn a deaf ear and a blind eye to what's really going on out there in this world. So for us, we are the ones that have to change. We know the issues that are there, but yet let's not turn away and ignore what is going on, because enough is enough. To me, it's not even about black or white. It's about wrong or right. And let's make it right, so that way we can have equality, and that way we can have social justice. And let's make sure we have reform, and let's make sure that we use our voices to vote to make these movements have power. And let's make sure that we continue to empower each other and get rid of the ignorance, because to me, racism is a learned behavior. Let's quit teaching it. Let's quit following it, and let's use our voices to continue to challenge. And I keep hearing people say, let's have those uncomfortable conversations. No, let's have real effective communication and conversations that need to happen.
No, you're absolutely right. And, I have many people in my corner, who have come to me and reached out to me and talked to me about it. And some of them have just not been exposed to it, but I'm thankful that they can come to me and say, okay, please explain to me why. And I just, it's eye opening, because I've known people, 10, 15, 20 years who are like, this really happens. I'm like, I try to tell y'all, but it's one of those things where you had to be careful. I think Coach Clifford said it best when I had a chance to speak with him a few weeks ago. He said, now is not the time to be neutral. And I think just in that statement alone carries a
Powerful.
lot of weight. Very.
That's very powerful. E, I agree. And thanks for allowing me this time, because I know it wasn't discussed, this isn't planned, but you know what? Let's use our voices, but yet let's let our actions speak louder than our words and continue to ash and, promote. And let's make sure we force the changes that are need to be made so we can have equality, because 400 years of oppression is too much. And I stand shoulder to shoulder with my son, who is also a professional basketball player, because I want my grandchildren and my great grandchildren to grow up in a world and a society where they don't have to have high blood pressure just because they get pulled over by the police. So let's pray for that. Let's continue to work for that. And let's continue to empower each other with the skills that we know we need to do so we can create those changes, my friend.
Powerful message here on the Magic Perspective. We're trying to get Alex back here, so bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. While I've got Coach Scott Fields on here, let me ask you another question here. So we talked about the bubble a little bit. Let's talk about the teams that are going to be there. And I have to ask this question. I know Alex kind of wanted to be the guy to ask it, but I'm a hold off, see if we can get him back. I know he wants to ask you a particular question about two players, but the Jazz kind of right now are seated in the middle of the Western Conference when it comes to seeding. Are other teams, in your opinion, do you think that they're sleeping on the Jazz, and will they surprise people and kind of make a deep run this postseason?
I'm a voice from the outside looking in. I think Quinn Snyder does a great job with his staff with the tools that they have, but I think with Bogdanovich being injured and missing the remainder of the season, that's going to be a big gap to fill for them moving forward. It's going to be a challenge for them. It looks like, if you look at it and how it plays out, they're going to have to play small ball probably against the Houston Rockets, who have fully committed to small ball. You got two great guards in Russell Westbrook and James Harden, who a lot of people don't like to watch that style. You hear Charles Barkley on TNT all the time, dribble. But here's the thing. With that small ball, that's going to force, and Coach D'Antoni, who again, like me, coached overseas, and he has put that influx of small space and pace because 7 seconds or less with the Phoenix Suns and the success that he had there. But he's going to draw Rudy Gobert out and make him defend on the perimeter against smaller, quicker, guys who are going to come off the dribble and attack him and make him move laterally. So it's going to be a chess match, and within a game, a series, let's see who makes better game adjustments, and let's see who makes better between game adjustments in that game of chess to see how far the Jazz can advance. But with Bogdanovich going out, a guy who can face up and shoot and spread the floor to give Conley and Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert that chance to run some pick and roll action, it's now a little bit diminished because Bogdanovich is now missing. So I think it's a big piece to have to try to make up for. Now, Joe Ingles can still come in and do some great things, but I still think Bogdanovich being out is going to be a lot to try to fill his shoes.
Okay. All right. Now, you brought one of the guys up, so I'm going to ask you. And I need you to be unbiased here with me for a minute.
All right, you got it. That's all we do.
Okay. Between Gobert and Mitchell, are they going to be able to coexist in this bubble?
I feel like as professionals, they have to put whatever personal things aside. I'll tell you what it's like to be behind the curtain and be in that locker room. It's a family atmosphere. And, sometimes there's dysfunction within a family. You may love your brothers and sisters, but that doesn't mean you always agree with your brothers and sisters. Yes. And that's the same thing that's happening right now, Eric. I really believe that, when the ball goes in the air and the tennis shoes start squeaking and the whistles start blowing from the referees, those competitive juices are going to take over, and they know they need each other to be successful. I don't think it's not like years ago with Twilight where there was Team Edward and Team whoever it was, where it's Team Gilbert.
Edward and Jacob, I think. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know it like that, but I don't think you can have Team Gobert and Team Mitchell. They need each other, and Mitchell, with the ball in his hands, he's got to be a better decision maker, because a lot of times when Michael Conley was still, trying to get his legs legs underneath him. A lot of times his decision making, he's more of a scorer than he is a facilitator, where Michael Conley is more of a true point guard, and he can facilitate, get into the defense, kick, get that ball movement, and get things going. So if Conley is healthy and he's playing at a level that we feel like he can, I think the Jazz can be successful. But again, without Bogdanovich, it's going to be tough. But I'm looking at the Clippers. I look at the Lakers. I think those two teams in the West are going to be very, very strong. And then you got to love what's going on in the East with my guy, Nick Nurse, and the job that he's done with those Toronto Raptors, who you mentioned are already down there without Kawhi Leonard. But, I keep looking at the Clippers and the bench depth that they have. If they stay healthy, and if you can, if those tangibles that you can control with the COVID virus and, getting their proper rest, there's going to be some teams that are going to come in there and compete. And I keep hearing people say, hey, is there going to be an asterisk? Well, there could be an asterisk, because it's going to be very, very challenging to finish this season after, come on, it's been 117 days since Rudy Gobert tested positive and basically stopped the league, which may, in some point, save thousands of lives. So,
right.
Pundits are going to be there. People are going to be haters. Let people think what they're going to think. They're going to do that. But you know what? I'm excited to see NBA basketball if people can stay healthy, if people can stay safe, because I do feel that, sports is so interwoven into our society and our fabric that it is respite and it is a distraction in unique times. But hey, during this time, sports can unite us and bring us together. And even if it's just for a few hours a day, we're all going to get back in there, support our favorite players, support our favorite teams. And we kind of need that respite right now moving forward, but allow these players to still use their platforms to get these movements, so that way we can get the decisions made. So in November we vote and get the right people in office to get the reform that we need.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And I love how you touched on the fact of having that, I call it an escape, if you will, because with everything that's going on in our country today, plus just this whole COVID-19, we have all been quarantined, whether we like it or not. We've been home. We've been with our families. We've found out that we have new hobbies, likes and dislikes. We need sports as kind of our way just to kind of escape for a couple of hours, but also be entertained. And I'm so thankful that Adam Silver has, been very stringent on his guidelines and making sure that everybody follows them. I just hope that it continues on, not just through basketball, but through hockey and through baseball and ultimately the NFL. And we can kind of get back to our normal flow of things.
Great words, my friend. Great words. Great words. Well spoken.
Thank you. I want to do a rapid fire here with you. You've given me some, so I've got 5 here. And I just want to really quick get them off with you. So first off, here we go. Number 1, who's your coach of the year?
Oh, that's a good one, because I don't think Frank Vogel gets enough credit because, he has AD and LeBron there with him. But you got to look at the job that Nick Nurse has done with that Toronto team to have them where they're at without Kawhi Leonard. I think everybody thought it was just going to be kind of a rebuild kind of season. And, man, he's got Pascal Siakam playing at a high level. He's got Van Fleet playing at a high level. You got Kyle Lowry out there continuing to do his thing. I may be a little bit biased on this. I actually got to coach against Nick Nurse overseas. I love what he's doing. I love that he's outside the box thinking. He's not afraid to make adjustments. Right now, I got to go coach Nick Nurse.
Okay. Who's your rookie of the year?
Oh, rookie of the year. I know a lot of people are going to be upset when I say it's not Zion Williams, but he didn't have the body of work because of the injury. Right now, Ja Morant has Memphis in the 8th seed. So right now, you got to go Ja Morant, but those two are going to play against each other twice. And I think the NBA was creative by allowing 22 teams to come in because everybody wants to see what Zion Williams is going to do. He's been taking care of his body. He's lost weight. He's put on muscle mass. So I think he's coming in there hungry with something to prove, but I think it's going to be a little too late, even though it's like Janet Jackson. What have you done for me lately? I got to go Ja Morant, my man.
Well, they're definitely going to be in control of all that situation.
I like it.
All right. So who's your MVP? Who's your MVP of the regular season?
The Greek Freak, baby. Come on. Milwaukee is number 1 in the East. He's added some tools to his toolbox. He gets into his bag. He's got that mid-range jumper, and he's got that 3 going more so than he ever has. But he plays so hard, and he brings so much versatility to his portfolio. He defends. He rebounds. He's like he could be a point point forward out there who can, make decisions and do things. So with all the weapons that he's done, I know a lot of LeBron people aren't going to like it, but right now it's Greek freak, baby, because Giannis has got them number one in the East right now. So let's see with this 3-month layoff, getting their legs underneath them, because those guys' competitive juices have continued to flow. So when that ball goes back up in the air on the 30th, these guys are going to be entertaining this. And I just hope and pray that Adam Silver continues to talk with the coaches, because let me tell you, through a coach's lens right now, we can't go too quick to get these players out there, because they can't go like a Maserati 0 to 100. They got to crawl before they walk before they run. And we don't want to see too many injuries, because their competitive juices are going to be flowing. So for them to go from 0 to 100 too quickly, that's when you're going to see hamstrings, groins, calves, tears. And we just can't allow that to happen. We got to make sure that we can progressively get these guys in shape so they can play at a high level. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, a lot of clock management in these earlier games, especially for the teams that are already qualified. Right. And it doesn't affect their seeding, but yet use each game to build that chemistry and get the rust off collectively as they play. So let's keep everybody safe and healthy, not only from COVID, but also from injuries. So that way it doesn't hurt the brand and style of play that the viewers will be watching on a daily basis.
Okay. So I got a couple more for you here.
Bring it.
First off, what is the finals matchup that you want to see? And then follow that up with, what is the matchup that you think is going to exist?
I like it. Great question. Now, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. Are they going to stick with the old playoff format where it's East versus West? And if it's East versus West, I'm going to surprise some people. I think the Clippers and the Bucks could be in the finals. Now, I say the Clippers because, again, I think Doc Rivers is masterful. He's been there. He's done that. And he's going to have those guys playing, because you look at them, they're playing on a neutral court. So every game's like an away game. And think about it. Heart and defense travels. Sometimes in a hostile environments, jump shots just won't fall. But when you can rely on your defense and you can rely on your bench depth with more legs and fresh legs, that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the Clippers in the West right now. But LeBron and the Lakers and the Clippers are going to be excellent games to watch to get to that finals game. But right now, I've got to say Bucks and Clippers in the finals.
Okay. Now, is that the matchup that you want, or the matchup that we're going to see?
I think it's the matchup that we're going to see. The matchup that I think the NBA wants is they want to see LeBron James in the finals because of the viewership that he brings. And then I think, the Bucks being right there, the Raptors being right there, I really feel like people want to see LeBron in the finals. And behind closed doors and whispers, they probably want to see, LA, Lakers in there, but one of those LA teams from a major market is going to be in there against a small market Milwaukee Bucks team competing to win the chip this year.
Okay. What's the matchup?
Great question, though.
What's the matchup that you want, Coach?
I think it's going to be Bucks and Clippers.
Bucks and Clippers. Okay. So then if we're going with Bucks and Clippers, you got to give me a finals MVP.
I really see. I mean, look what Kawhi has done, and he's like a silent assassin. He doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't get a lot of press. He just quietly goes about his business. If the Clippers win, of course, it's Kawhi Leonard. If the Bucks win, even though Middleton's got to step up and do his thing, it's going to be Giannis, and to see if he can get over that hump and win that finals MVP. So it's going to be one of those two players. And hey, I'm like everybody else. I'm going to have my fans hat on. I'm going to be going crazy and breaking things down on a day-to-day basis, but it'll be Giannis if the Bucks win.
All right. Coach Scott Fields, man, joining me here today on the Magic Perspective with Alex and Eric. Coach, thank you so much for being a part of our show today, man. We are definitely going to have you back on as this NBA season continues to roll. Definitely love your perspective on things. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We will talk to you guys real soon. Hey, as Coach said, let's have those conversations. Let's love one another, be kind to one another, stand up for one another, and let's get to that equality place where we all can be as one. I'll talk to you guys real soon. Have a great night. See ya.
Peace, love.